Good morning, everyone. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. Before I continue with the opening remarks, I'll just take a moment to introduce some of the people up here. On my far left is Committee Member Natalia Popovic. On my left is Mr. Dominic Gully. On my immediate right is Ms. Laura Alderson. And on my far right is Mr. Bill Dalton. My name is Donald Taylor, and I'll be chairing this morning's hearing. We also have with us at the far left end of this desk our Deputy Secretary Treasurer, Ms. Barbara Bartosik, and we have staff at the far right end of the desk, and as well as the area right in front of me here. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. We acknowledge the land we're meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you're called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto local appeal body, TLAB, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto local appeal body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal, OLT. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the applicant or agent may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals, either in support or opposed to the application, will be invited to speak. Generally, we first call on speakers in the hearing room and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Before we hear our first item today, we need confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting, which was held on June 20th, 2024. Can I have a motion to adopt those minutes?
I'll move the motion.
Mr. Dalton, thank you. And a seconder?
I'll second that
Ms.
motion.
Alderson, thank you. All in favor? The minutes of the meeting held on June 20th have been adopted. Before we proceed, are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff for items in this morning time slot? Panel?
Chair, I have a couple of items that I'm in conflict with respect to item number 8, 340 Mill Road. I'm within the notification area of this application. And number 10, 37 Markland Road, I'm within the notification area of this application. So I'm declaring conflicts on both items, 8 and 10.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gully. So you will be leaving the room for our consideration of those items when the time comes?
Thank you.
Yep. And staff, any declarations of interest? No. Okay. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, do we have any deferral requests on this morning's agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, item 15 at the request of the applicant. 1156 the Queensway.
Okay. Do we have John Manlapaz is the agent?
Yes. Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah, yes, sir. Could you please explain your reasons for requesting deferral today?
Yes, please, sir. I would like to request a deferral to the August 1st meeting. This is because after we had made the application, we had received a ZAP, which is the Zoning and Applicable Law Certificate that outlined a couple of inconsistencies with the application that we had submitted. We were going to pursue with a waiver, and now that we have the Zoning and Applicable Law Certificate, we had made a resubmission. That resubmission was on, I believe, June 27th. And so we would like that new information and specificity in our application to be heard at a later date.
Okay, thank you. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, the agent specifically requested to be heard on August the 1st. Is that possible?
No, that hearing is closed. We need them to submit everything before we can reschedule.
Okay. So rescheduling is to be determined.
Yes.
Okay. Do you understand that, Mr. Manlapaz?
I do. We had made a fulsome resubmission, and this was at the direction of planning staff. This is really in combination with a site plan application review. And so that application and that resubmission was made in its entirety, including all of the amended materials. So that should be on file with the clerk's office now.
Well, perhaps it is, but notwithstanding, the Deputy Secretary Treasurer has indicated that the reappearance of this item will be determined at a later date. It will not be on the August 1st agenda. I just want to hear you say that you understand that. You may not agree with it, but do you understand it?
I understand that, sir.
Okay, thank you. And I don't believe there are any, is there anybody in the hearing room that came to speak to this item?
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning.
Morning.
I did file an objection. I don't object to
What's your address, please?
1 Norden Avenue.
Thank you.
I don't object to the deferral. However, I wonder if there is any way of knowing when it might be, because I'll be away out of the country for most of August, and I would like to address the panel in person if that's possible.
And I guess the circulation would be sent. It didn't sound like August is a potential.
Yeah, right now we're scheduling for August 15th, so most likely that would be the hearing date.
So you may well be away when the notice comes into your mailbox.
Correct. Is there any way of putting it over to September, for example, the 1st?
We have to accommodate when the applicant is ready to be scheduled, so if they're asking for August 15th, we would schedule it. You can participate virtually if
Right.
you're able to while you're away.
Yes, I don't know if there are any restrictions in that regard, but, all right, so there's nothing right now that I can do in terms of having it deferred until September.
The committee will make the motion to defer. They can ask the applicant if they're willing, but considering they were requesting August 1st, I can't speak for them, but I'm going to guess that they would like to be scheduled as quickly as possible.
Okay?
Is there any way you can make arrangements to have somebody look at your mail?
I'll do my best.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
You can check the status of the application online. When are you going away?
I'll be going away at the end of July and back early September.
Okay, so, I mean, that's a long time to hold someone up, but
Sure.
our notices typically go out 3 weeks prior, so you may get it before you go, but you can always check online
Okay.
to see if it has been scheduled.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we also have Manuela Andriana listed as a speaker. Ms. Andriana?
Yes.
Yeah, are you, hopefully you've been following along, are you okay with deferring this item to a later date?
Yep, I have no problems as long as I'm notified. I'm okay with that.
Okay, that's
And
good.
you're at 12 Woolgar Avenue?
I am the neighbor of this place that's going up.
But at
Yes.
12 Woolgar? Yes, okay, thank you.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay, so we can go into committee then to deal with this request for deferral. Is there a
Can we
motion?
just ask the applicant if they would consider a deferral to September? I think
Okay.
I know their answer, but just to be fair.
Mr. Manlapaz?
Yes, please. I think.
Would you be agreeable to deferring this item to a hearing in the month of September?
We would not, actually, sir. I would like to really request the August 15th, please.
Understood, thank you. Okay, can we have a motion to deal with this deferral request? Ms. Popovic?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion on the basis of the request by the applicant to defer this matter to a date to be signed by Madam Diaz's office.
Okay. Is there a
I'll
second?
second that.
Thank you, Mr. Felton. All in favor? Okay, that item has been deferred.
Mr. Chair, that's it for deferrals, but we do have a request to close a file, item 12, 46 Charleston Road.
Okay.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, with respect to item 12, we don't have neither the agent or the neighbor are on the line. They were sent the credentials and sent a reminder email, but neither of them appear to be here.
Okay, I think the reasons were made quite clear for the reason for withdrawal in writing. So can I Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, can we proceed, notwithstanding the fact there's no one here to speak about it?
Yes, usually they wouldn't show up, and just to include in the motion, they're aware, but that no refund would be issued.
Okay. And there's no one in the hearing room that came to speak about 46 Charleston Road? And there's no one online. Okay. So can we have a motion to deal with this request to withdraw, item 12?
Chair, I'm going to move that item number 12, 46 Charleston Road, be withdrawn at the request of the applicant, and that committee approve that withdrawal.
Thank you, Mr. Gully. Is there a seconder for that motion?
I'll second that.
Mr. Dalton, thank you. All in favor? Okay, that item number 12, 46 Charleston Road has been withdrawn.
Mr. Chair, just verifying with Madam DST that the no refund.
We'll include that in the motion.
In the
So the
motion.
motion will be to close the file and no refund would be issued based on the refund policy.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just a quick note. For item 1, the agent who did not pre-register was not on the line at the time of sound check. We sent them an email to remind them to join, but they still have not joined. So if we want to maybe move on to start with item 2.
Okay, and you'll press on trying to get him because we've got quite a heavy agenda.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, then we'll move on to item number 2. (120) Wheatfield Road. This is an application to permit a soft landscaping deficiency in the rear yard. There is one variance. We have a Metrolinx advisory and community planning has recommended refusal. Do we have the agent, Jonathan Benskowski, online?
Mr. Chair, good morning, committee.
Yeah, and Mr. Benskowski, I note here that you didn't pre-register to speak to us today. And I know you've appeared before us before. Is there any reason for that oversight, or?
No, I received the link to participate.
Because we do that as a courtesy because we're so nice, but you are required to register for all of your applications.
My apologies, Ms. Bartasa.
Yeah, we're nice to you, but we expect you to be nice to us too. That's okay. I know you'll remember next time.
Yes, I will.
Okay, so, sir, I guess, yeah, we need to hear from you on this. We've got a community planning recommendation for refusal. So you need an opportunity to speak to that.
Yes. So committee, this is an application for essentially an as-built condition. This turf was installed about 4 years ago at the time of the construction of the dwelling. At that time, it was sort of that in limbo time where there hadn't been a consensus on if turf in the backyard was going to be considered soft or hardscape. Now we do know that turf has been considered hardscape. Again, this was installed with the building permit. In terms of the permeability of the turf, I did submit the specs of the turf itself that has a, essentially, it'll drain 28 inches of rain per hour. Okay, so it is a permeable turf that's in the rear yard. I also submitted some photos of a large daycare that's located in the church quite close to the subject property where that turf has also been used extensively. So again, I did speak with planning. I sent them the specs. I'm not quite sure why it was just a hard refusal. We did go back and forth a couple of times. There is a small garden area located at the rear. What I would say, if there was any concern in terms of rainwater runoff and again spilling onto the adjacent properties, we would have most likely seen an objection from the adjacent neighbors to the north and the south, or the adjacent neighbor to the rear, which would be the west. In my opinion, again, there we see, again, the larger installation of turf within a daycare area that again is exact same turf that what we are proposing to maintain at the subject property. In my opinion, fairly straightforward. Again, in terms of the turf being permeable, it is not a underlaid turf where it has a rubber bottom where there's no permeability. And again, I'm happy to walk through the specs if you like. But again, to go through the 28 inches of rain per hour per square yard is what the specs say. Again, if it is installed with sand and gravel below, which is how this has been installed. I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee might have if they have any.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions for Mr. Benskowski?
Chair, I have a question. Good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning.
How are you?
For you, Mr. Chair. I'm well. I hope you enjoyed your vacation.
Thank you. Yes, I did. Jonathan, I was going to ask, did you have the opportunity at all to discuss this with Toronto Water? And I'm asking that question relative to the city's wet weather flow master plan. I know that planning has provided comments recommending refusal. A different route would have been to go through Toronto Water and ask them the acceptability of your proposal and the type of turf that you're using. Did you have the opportunity to do that? Do you think you want to have that opportunity?
We would be happy to produce a revised grading plan that would be able to demonstrate the retention of all of the water on the site. I'm currently in the midst of dealing with a Toronto Water issue on a 9-story building in terms of, again, maintaining all of the water on it. So I'm fairly familiar with it, but we would be happy to provide a revised grading plan to demonstrate the retention of all the water on this site. Again, because the original grading plan that would have been produced with the building permit stage would not have been for the turf. It would have been for a regular grass type surface. So we'd be happy to submit as a condition of approval a revised grading plan that would demonstrate, again, the retention of all the water on the site.
The only reason I asked that question is that given the fact that it's already been done, if there was a way of salvaging it and salvaging the costs that the resident went through, I'm not quite sure whether the grading plan would satisfy Toronto Water in terms of percolation and so on. Thanks, Jonathan.
Through you, Mr. Chair, what I would say to that, Mr. Gully, is the only thing that the revised grading plan would demonstrate, again, is the retention of all of that water within the property itself, which again would go back to the wet weather flow management system through that revised grading plan. And if alterations were to have to take place to what already exists today, that would have to occur in order for the building permit to be closed, because the actual original building permit from 4 years ago is still open. It hasn't been closed because of this issue. So it would have to be altered as per that revised grading plan to demonstrate that that percolation would be okay on the property itself.
Okay, I don't want to take too much time because we have people waiting here and virtually as well. Would you be willing also to have development engineering look at it, since you're providing a grading plan and it would have to be to their satisfaction?
Absolutely. Through you, Mr. Chair. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any other questions?
Just to clarify, Mr. Chair, development engineering will not review minor variance applications. They rely on any information that's submitted to Toronto Building, but since a permit isn't really required for landscaping, they wouldn't, I don't know what grading plan they would be submitting, but development engineering will not review this application.
Is there anyone in the hearing room that came to speak to this item? 120 Wheatfield Road? No? No one online? Okay, then I think we can now go into committee for a decision then. If anybody's prepared to make a motion. Ms.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to make a comment that I
Yep.
still have some reservations and concerns about this particular application. 2 reasons. One is planning report recommends refusal. And secondly, I believe, at least in my view, a comparison with the neighborhood daycare that has the same property is a fundamentally different use and purpose for the daycare to have that type of finish. It seems a bit more practical in that case than in this one. So those two concerns still rest
Okay.
with me.
Anyone else wish to weigh in on this before we decide? No? Okay, so we need a motion to enable us to dispense with this matter.
Well, I'd like to move a motion to refuse. I agree with city planning comments that given that this application was approved in 2019, it was on condition of the site plan that was attached to that approval at that time, which showed generous rear yard landscaping, and they ended up with this. So on that basis, I would move the motion to refuse.
Okay, is there a seconder for Mr. Dalton's motion?
I would second that,
Ms.
Mr. Chair.
Popovich? All in favor? Okay, that application has been refused by unanimous vote.
Thank you, committee.
Adam, any luck with Mr. Siddiqui on item 1? No?
No, not yet. If it's amenable to you, maybe we just go down the list, and then once he logs on, I'll flag you.
You'll let me know.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Good. Okay, item 3 is a revised application. The purpose is to construct a partial second-story addition and a new front porch. We have 4 variances. There was a number 5, which has been removed. We have a Metrolinx advisory and no other comments from agencies. And I don't believe we have any neighbors or otherwise expressing any concerns or interest in this. Is there anyone in the hearing room that came to speak about 44 26th Street? No?
Good morning, committee and chair. Conrad
Morning.
Surma, the owner.
Okay. I believe, if I can just bounce this off my colleagues, this is a pretty straightforward matter, I think. Does anybody require a presentation? Or you can always ask a question or two if you have one, but okay.
I do actually have a question, if
Okay,
I
but-
may.
Please.
Mr. Chair, so I'm looking at Street View right now, and it looks like there is a second-story addition currently on the structure. And is that at the rear?
Yes, ma'am.
And the second-story addition that you're proposing will be on the front?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, no other questions? So we can go into committee then for a decision?
Yeah, and I'm happy to move a motion if no one else has any questions. I'd like to move for approval because I believe this application meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and there are no conditions from any city department.
Is there a seconder for that? Mr.
second
Dalton, thank you. All in favor? That is approved unanimously. You didn't have to say a word.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, we can now move on to item 4. .477 Maple Leaf Drive. Purpose is to legalize and to maintain the detached accessory structure in the rear yard. There is 1 variance. We have no agency comments. We have, well, we do have a registered speaker. Okay. Mr. Rebo is the agent.
Morning, committee. Yes, my name is Matthew Rebo, Perspective Views, 5359 Timberlea Boulevard, Mississauga, and I'm the agent representing the owners of this application, 477 Maple Leaf Drive.
It's very difficult to hear you. Can you get closer to your microphone?
You know what? Let me put my headset on. Testing 1, 2.
Very, very faint. Hello?
It seems like Matthew has muted himself. I'm going to try and unmute again. Matthew?
Sorry, let me try. I'm trying everything I can to make this work. I haven't had any issues lately. Can you still not hear me? Hello?
It's just very faint. Can you be closer to your computer or device?
Pretty close. I'm trying to get closer. Hello, testing 1, 2.
Okay, just give me a minute here. We may not have to hear from you anyway.
Okay.
We do have a registered speaker. They didn't write anything in on this, so I don't know what the nature of their comments are. Could we just ask Daniela Magno to join in for a second? Ms. Magno?
No, I'm just interested in listening to what's happening.
Okay, so you don't have any comments, you're just curious.
That's right.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Mr. Rebo, this is pretty straightforward. I don't believe, unless my colleagues disagree, that we need a presentation. Would you be okay answering a question or two if we have any, without hearing from you?
Certainly.
Okay. So, panel, any comments before we? No comments. So let's take a motion on this then.
Chair, I'm going to move that the application for one variance for lot coverage be approved. The request is nominal, very small, appropriate, minor. Move approval with no conditions.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for Mr. Gully's motion?
I'll second that.
Mr. Dalton, thank you. All in favor? That application has approved unanimously.
Thank you, committee members. Have a great day.
Yeah, so before you come back, maybe you can go down to Best Buy and get yourself a new computer. I'm joking. Okay.
Yes, understood. Thank you.
Okay. So item 5, 8 Gem Place. The purpose is to construct a 2-story rear addition and a partial 2nd-story addition. There are 2 variances. No agency comments. Sorry? Yeah. Yeah, we have TRC is okay, ravine and natural features is okay. Again, I would classify this as pretty straightforward and not necessarily in need of a presentation. Panel, are you in agreement with that? Okay. So if we can just see if we have any questions of you before we make a decision on it. Okay. So any questions of the agent? Mr. Wilshire? No? Okay, then let's have a motion for a decision then.
Chair, I'll move that the 2 variances being requested be approved. Move approval with no conditions. We have support from the counselor, and we also have a positive report from TRCA. Move with no conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Gully. Is there a seconder for that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Ms. Alderson, thank you very much. All in favor? That's approved unanimously.
Thank you, committee.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Not yet. Adam's going to tell me. Item 6, 92 Hay Avenue. Purpose is to construct a 1-story front addition above the existing dwelling, a 3-story rear addition, as well as an enclosed front porch and a deck and detached garage in the rear yard. There are 3 variances. We have 1 support letter. We have a Metrolinx advisory. And we do have a registered speaker, Yasemin Sahab. The agent is Ryan Dunlop. Mr. Dunlop?
Morning.
Good morning. In light of the fact that we have a registered speaker, and again, I don't think Mr. Sahab submitted anything in writing on this, no. Could we just take a moment and allow us to consult with the person that wanted to speak to this item, just to get an idea about their concerns, and then come back
Yes,
to you?
absolutely.
Okay, can we do that? Yasemin Sahab, are you available?
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I am here.
Yeah.
I am.
Just briefly, before you speak, are you generally opposed or generally in support, or just curious?
No, I have few questions because I'm next door neighbor, and we have they have the right, like we have a right of way to access the property. So I have a couple of questions in terms of the planning. I only was informed about this whole thing a few days ago, walking by the property and seeing the notice. So unfortunately, I did not know about this in advance. And for some reason, I didn't receive.
Okay, why don't we listen to a brief presentation then, and then I'll call on you to see if you have any questions or concerns at that time then. Can we do that?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Okay, Mr. Dunlop?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so for the interest of Ms. Sahab and perhaps others, if you could just briefly explain your proposal here.
Yep, absolutely. So I don't know if you can maybe pull up the site plan. It might help there. So essentially what we're looking to do is add a one-story front porch enclosure to the front of the house. There's an existing front porch that is there that will remain the covered porch. And then essentially what we're looking to do is add a third floor over top of the existing front portion of the dwelling. And then at the rear of the house, there's an existing one-story rear addition that will be partially removed, and then we will be adding an addition a little bit further out the back, and then a second and third story above that. So we've stayed within the maximum height allowance as well, which will also allow us allow the front of the building to kind of stay within the heights of the buildings to the right of the building at I think it was number 90. As that's 3 stories as well, and I think there's a building just to the right of that is also around the same height. In the rear yard, we're looking to reconstruct a one-car garage. The existing garage that was there had burned, I think, a couple years ago. So they're just looking to reconstruct a new garage in its place. So that's kind of high level what we're looking to do here. And I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
Okay. Okay, panel, any questions of Mr. Dunlop before we proceed? Okay, can we bring back Yasemin Sahab? Ms. Sahab?
Hi.
Okay, hopefully you understand what's being requested here a little bit better than you did 10 minutes ago. Do you have any questions, concerns, comments?
Yes. Thank you very much for telling me the plan. In terms of the existing
Can you just
garage,
state your address as well?
Yes, 94 Hay Avenue.
Thank you.
Okay, go on.
So in terms of the garage proposal, I want to know what's the intended use for that. Because in the current situation, car cannot drive to a garage. And what you see in this picture is shared in here where it says existing garage. This is my property. So I don't understand this drawing. So you can see the line. I'm the property to the left in these pictures. You see the property on the left, that's me. So on a bottom right picture, you see my garage, which is not a car use garage. Is just a large shed. Is not intended to use for driving. It's just a shed. So my shed is right in the left on the fence, and they have that small shed on the right. So I don't understand this drawing, and then I really want to understand the intended use for this new proposed detached garage.
Okay, thank you. We'll ask Mr. Dunlop to try and explain that to you. Is there anything else?
Yes, also want to make sure the access to the property is maintained during this time, because I do have a side entrance, and my backyard entrance are all from this on the side of the property. So need to make sure the access is maintained throughout the whole construction. Property is not blocked, and also in terms of any damages to my property, what is the next step? So I want to make sure the fence is in the right place, and no damages happen to anything.
Okay, is there anything else?
I'd like to hear his answer first before I come with any other question. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, panel, any questions for Ms. Sahab before we?
Chair, I have a question. Good morning. I was wondering how you get to your garage.
Through the backyard. So it's not a garage, it's a shed. So is like you cannot drive a car there. The look of it, it looks like a garage. When I purchased this property last year, it was already there. I don't know why they built such a giant thing in the backyard, but it is what it is. So we are using it as a shed. The access is through this backyard door, which is on the side of the property.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. How do you act? Do you use it as a garage for a car?
No, it's not a garage. It's
Okay.
not for a car.
All right.
It's only a shed, a storage room.
Okay. Do you know that there's a shared right-of-way, or is there a shared right-of-way between your property and 94 and 92?
Yes.
There is a shared right-of-way, correct?
Yes.
There
That's
is.
correct.
So perhaps we'll have the applicant explained that number 92 have a right-of-way over your property, 94.
Yes.
You understand that they do have the right to access their garage at the rear yard by going through your property, and that you have a right to go to your garage partially through their property.
I understand that, but again, and just to reiterate, this is not a garage what I have.
Okay, that's fine.
The car cannot drive there. And
That's-
that's my question. What is the intended use of this? Is this going to be like mine, just a shed, a storage room? Or is this going to be for a car driving into it?
Well, we'll let the applicant explain, but I think if you refer back to your survey, you'll see that a portion of your property, number 92 enjoys part of a slip of land on your property to access to their rear yard, and you have that same right. But I'll have the applicant explain that, or the chair will have the applicant explain that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't think I asked if there was anybody in the room that came here to speak about 92 Hay Avenue. No one? Okay. Okay, Mr. Dunlop?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, if you could address the issues raised by Ms. Sahab and the commentary of Member Gully.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so just to kind of clarify what the proposed garage will be used for, much like what she had suggested, it's going to be used for mainly storage for like bicycles, you know, kids' toys, that sort of thing. So it might not necessarily be used for a car to park in there, but it is a size that could fit a vehicle if it was necessary. We all know that, you know, a lot of these houses were built back in the day when you know, people used to park in the backyard. A lot of vehicles now are probably a little bit too big to fit between some of these houses. So all we're doing here is just illustrating that we can fit a parking space in the rear yard to meet the zoning requirements. So that's really what we're trying to illustrate here. So I hope that kind of answers sort of the use of the garage. The other 2 points with regards to construction, and this is something that I will obviously relay to my client, but obviously access to her property will absolutely be maintained during construction. So there should be no issues there. And then obviously we'll touch on you know, if there was any damages or anything like that to her property as well, and we can have that conversation directly with the homeowners. And I think that should cover it.
Okay,
If there's any other
thank you.
questions that you might have?
Panel, any questions for Mr. Dunlop?
Chair, I have a question.
Yep.
Mr. Dunlop, do you want to address the issue of the right-of-way?
Yeah, so essentially the right-of-way, it is, I think I've seen it on the screen there. It is shown, so I'd say probably a good 2/3 of the shared right-of-way is on 92 Hay Ave's site, and then probably about a third of it on 94's site. So this is obviously a shared right-of-way, like you said, that you know, she has access to her rear yard as much as the owners of 92 have shared access to their rear yard. So, so hopefully that answers that question there.
So, Mr. Taylor, sorry,
Dunlop.
Dunlop. Sorry about that. Mr. Dunlop, where are your clients going to be parking if the proposed garage is not a garage but a storage building?
Well, we've illustrated that there is space at the rear for a parking space, so they could park at the rear. They just might not park in the garage itself. But if they so chose to, they could park in the garage.
So you don't require a variance for parking, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Dunlop?
Just a comment. I'm looking at Street View right now, and I don't see how there's any possibility for a regular-sized vehicle to actually proceed down in between the two houses. First of all, and it does look like pretty much the entire two front yards are paved over. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone in the room that came to speak about, well, I already asked that question. The answer is no. So, panel, can we have a discussion and a motion eventually?
Okay, I'd like to move a motion for approval. I believe the application is pretty straightforward. There are no conditions, and it does meet the 4 tests.
Okay, is there a seconder for Mr. Dalton's motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Ms. Popovic, thank you. All in favor? That is approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Dunlop.
Mr. Chair, we do have Farouk.
We have Mr. Siddiqui?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Mr. Siddiqui.
Morning.
Just before you speak, I'm just going to outline the some of the details here about the application. The purpose is to maintain the existing rear yard deck. We have 5 support letters, and we also have a note from community planning reminding us that this committee refused a similar application for a rear yard encroachment of a rear yard deck at 298 VALERMO, February 27th, 2020. And you're proposing a rear yard encroachment of 7.3 meters into the rear yard. So if you could just try and explain to us why you think the committee should approve this application.
Yeah, thank you very much. As it was mentioned in the application, that there are elderly people which would like to enjoy in the backyard, and there is a very small width of the stairs going into the backyard, so it becomes little dangerous for them. So the applicant has that's why they applied for minor variance for extending that deck to 7.3 meters. And also on the east side, there is normally there has to be a 30 centimeters of land to be left open, and that has been also extended to 25 centimeters. So 5 centimeters waiver is needed in that case also. There is no objection from the neighbors. There are the immediate neighbors around. I think there are some other areas also where such decks do exist, and it has not impedimented any of the areas of the neighbors' secrecy. The deck is only less than 60 centimeters in height, so it still maintains its basically it's a wooden platform which is only 40 centimeters to 50 centimeters of height from the grass. So that is the basic idea. Is the reason is that the elderly people coming out from the living room into the smaller deck is little dangerous for them. So we would request that this application please be considered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sir, could you tell us how long the owners have owned this property?
I don't have the exact date, but it is more than 8 years.
Sorry, how long?
8
Roughly?
years.
8 years?
Yes.
Okay, so they would have been aware of the application 5 doors away then that got refused 4 years ago, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Panel, any other questions of Mr. Siddiqui?
Chair, I have a question. Good morning. I was wondering if you might be able to tell me, this is a relatively new build, correct? A new built house, relatively new. In a new subdivision.
Yes, please. Can you repeat, sir?
Sure. Can you please tell me, is this a relatively new home in a new subdivision?
Uh-huh.
In a new subdivision with some 60 individual lots and 60 individual homes?
Mm-hmm.
He's asking
Yes,
you a
I-
question.
Yes, I presume so.
Yeah, you're aware that this is a new subdivision, relatively new subdivision, with some 60 new lots and 60 relatively new homes built within the last, I don't know, less than 10 years.
Sir, could you answer the question?
I mean, what is the question exactly? I'm not able to understand.
Okay, the point I'm trying to make, actually, I was trying to understand whether you've taken a look at the whole area, and I guess I'll give you the answer. I'm supposed to be asking the question, but this is a relatively new subdivision in Etobicoke, and it's south of Etobicoke. And the point I'm trying to make is your client is asking for variance to allow this deck in their rear yard. If all 60 individual homeowners wanted to do the same thing, where would all the grass and where would all the water go? Where would all the grass be, and where would all the water percolate to?
Yeah, thank you. Now I understand. I understand your question. And this is basically a deck is not an area which decreases the perviousness of the ground. Whatever water is falling, the rainwater is falling on a deck, it goes into the ground, and there is no drainage system, surface drainage system that goes around or is taken separately. So a deck basically is, if we take the coefficient of the perviousness in a deck, it is equal to the same as we take into the landscaping. So because the water that falls, the rainfall intensity, whatever is in the subdivision or the same Etobicoke area, is taken through the groundwater or surface water. So there is no change in the imperviousness or perviousness of the ground, because there are gaps in between these wooden 1.5-inch pieces.
So I partly agree with you, and that's a good answer in the sense that water will go through the crack of the deck and so on. But I partly agree with that. The issue, though, is what happens if every homeowner has the same platform or the same deck right up to everybody else's fence? That's the point that I was trying to make. Thank you.
I understand.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Mr. Siddiqui? No? Is there anyone in the room that came to speak about this application? 288 VALERMO Drive? No? And there's no other registered speakers. Okay, I think it's time for us to go into committee for some discussion if we need that, or a motion.
I just wanted to comment that I agree with my colleague regarding setting a precedent for the other buildings in that subdivision, that, you know, if we approve this, what is to prevent everyone from doing exactly the same thing? So.
Anyone else? Okay, can we have a motion then?
Okay. Oops, feedback. I'd like to move a motion to refuse. On this, I do agree with planning, given the earlier application, 476 was refused, and this exceeds that. I don't find this minor, and again, move a motion to refuse.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? Okay, that application is refused unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Siddiqui. Okay, moving on to item number 7, 15 Ashwood Crescent. The purpose is to construct a one-story rear addition, a covered front porch, and a covered rear patio that will connect to an accessory structure in the rear yard. There are 10 variances, and we have a recommendation to refuse from community planning. And Mr. Bader, you're the registered agent for this application.
Yes, I am, Mr. Chair.
I guess in light of the community planning comment, a presentation from you would be in order?
I am prepared.
Good. Please proceed. Give us your name and address.
Yeah. Good morning, staff, chair, and members. My name is Robert Bader, B-A-D-E-R. My address is 38 Albany Street here in Etobicoke, A-L-B-A-N-I. Thank you for providing me with the time to present this application to the committee. I'm here representing the new property owners at the property municipally known as 15 Ashwood Crescent. First off, I wish to plead with the committee that any deferral of this matter would compromise the narrow construction window that Etobicoke's weather provides. That said, we are aware of the communication that community planning has shared with this committee. We had prepared a compelling rationale justifying the requested variances and responded to community's planning's concerns with an updated rationale, revised plans, and a revised pre-application applicable law review notice with significant reductions and in some cases the elimination of the variances being requested, which include the removal of the minimum soft landscaping provision, the removal of the parking space dimensions provision, the removal of the exterior stair basement walkout provision, and dramatic reductions in the maximum lot coverage provision and the side yard setback for ancillary structures provision. Letters of support have been submitted by the immediate neighbors surrounding 15 Ashwood Crescent in support of our request. We wish to stress on the 2 points in the response to community planning's concerns. Although coverage has been reduced since what was originally applied for, the new property owner envisions an all-season backyard oasis for their young families by way of a loggia or a covered patio for access to an in-ground pool and an associate cabana. We wish to also note that the family members who possess a photosensitivity there are family members who possess a photosensitivity condition, hence the purpose of a covered patio. The second point we wish to address in response to community planning's concerns is the issue of the prevailing heights, massing scale, and density of the dwellings in the neighborhood. And our response is, from the street, the dwelling presents as a single-story dwelling, which is consistent with the remainder of the street. And the neighborhood, we are not seeking variances for additional gross floor area or additional height. We are not seeking variances for height of the main dwelling. The main crux of the variances or the concerns that planning has is in respect of minimum required soft landscaping, which we have addressed through revised plans, and the lot coverage, and I've explained the reasons behind that. I'm available for any questions that the members may have.
I've just got one quick one regarding variance number 6. I think in light of your revision, it seems to me that variance is no longer required. Is that right?
Variance number 6 was the basement walkout?
The rear yard soft landscaping.
That is
the
absolutely
requirement
correct.
is 50%, and you've revised the proposal to provide 53.35%.
Yeah, we made a reduction in the covered patio component, and we made a reduction in the coping surrounding the in-ground pool, and we increased the soft landscaping to greater than 50%.
So why would you require that variance if you exceed the minimum soft landscape?
I believe this is a matter of timing. There was, applications had to be submitted, the agenda is established, and there's a back and forth communication between community planning members and ourselves, and we just, have to work with the consulting team that's preparing the drawings and the plans, of the designer, the homeowner. It's a communication matter.
Any questions for Mr. Bader before we proceed? None? Is there anyone in the hearing room that came to speak to this matter? No? No one online, Adam? Okay, so I guess we can proceed into committee then for discussion and a decision. Any comments or just, Okay.
Well, just to clarify, there is no soft landscaping variance required then?
That is correct.
Okay. In that case, since I have my microphone on, I'm happy to make a motion for approval, subject to, I believe this application does meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act. It's desirable, and move for approval subject to urban forestry condition number 2.
Is there a seconder for Ms. Alderson's motion? Mr. Gully, all in favor? That is approved by vote of 3 to 2.
Thank you, Chair and members.
I saw 4 hands.
I didn't see Mr. Gully or Mr. Dalton's hand go up.
Mr. Gully seconded the motion.
Did you put it up and then pull it down before I looked at you?
Oh, probably. I second it.
Approved by vote of 4 to 1.
Thank
Okay,
you, Chair.
so opposed is Mr. Dalton,
Mr. Dalton's opposed.
and it's approved as amended, and variance number 6 has been withdrawn.
Yeah, with an urban forestry 2 condition.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, we can move on to, is anyone in need of or wishing a break? No, we're all good. Let's keep going then. Let's keep going. Let me know if you change your mind. Item 8, oh, Mr. Gully, you'll be recusing yourself, thank you. 340 Mill Road. The purpose is to construct a temporary parking lot in the rear of the building. There's one variance. We have a condition from Transportation Services, ravine and natural features protection is okay. We have no other agency comments. We have no registered speakers. Is there anyone in the room that came to speak about 340 Mill Road? Yes, ma'am.
I'm representing the applicant.
Oh, you're
I thought I'd
Cynthia McDougall.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to suggest to my colleagues that this is a very straightforward matter, not requiring a presentation. Would you be okay if we had any questions of you?
I'd be delighted.
Good. Let's do it that way then. Panel, questions, comments?
You know, I really should be declaring a conflict of interest. I didn't realize that Cynthia was the speaker for the applicant, so
You can leave.
yes, she is a friend of mine, so.
We still have a quorum. Barely.
Or I'll stand back and allow someone else to speak if it assists.
So Cynthia, you're aware of and okay with the Transportation Services condition?
Yes, we accept the condition. I just wanted to indicate that goal of a very good manager park property was to provide for as many interim parking spaces during the construction of a new rental building, because you don't want to displace the tenants and you want to maximize the parking. So the cars were lined up facing the building as opposed to sideways, which increased the number of spaces and reduced the setback. So we have everyone's support, we accept the condition, and I'm hopeful that you will approve it. Thank you.
Okay.
I do have one question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Madam Agent, how temporary is temporary? It might be in the materials somewhere. I might have missed it. What's your
well,
anticipation?
It probably three years plus, because it's the construction of a new a new 19-story building on the existing parking lot, which is to the south. And so it will be during the entire time. But think about this from the perspective of there are 200 and I believe there's about 200 plus existing tenants, and the people who don't get a spot on the ground, they actually are using shuttle buses. And so we have 24-hour shuttle buses taking the existing tenants who can't find a spot on the ground. So to the extent that we've been able to accommodate as many parking spaces, which are about 96 on the ground, I think it's very, very helpful. And the 2 letters that actually 2 people wrote in, neither of them face where the little parking strip is. So there are only 2 letters of complaint, and those letters of complaint say, please don't add more parking. they don't recognize, in fact, that the parking is actually there right now.
Thank you.
Mr. Dalton, any questions? So we're ready for a motion? Ms. Popovic.
Mr. Chair, thank you. On the basis of the information provided and that Urban Forestry has no conditions, Transportation Services recommends approval. On balance, meeting the 4 tests, I would move to approve this application.
Thank you.
With the Transportation Services condition?
Yes, there's one condition.
Yes. I'll second that.
All in favor? That's approved unanimously. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Cynthia.
Mr. Chair, since Mr. Gully has a conflict with item 10, can we just move on to that one and I'll get Ms. Alderson back in the room?
Sure, yeah, let's do that. Good idea. So in case you didn't pick that up, one of our members has a conflict with item 10, so we're going to skip over 9, deal with 10 while Member Gully is out of the room, and then we'll come back to 9. No. Okay, item 10 is 37 Markland Drive. The purpose is to construct a 2-story west side addition and a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling. There is one variance. We have no agency comments. We have 3 support letters, 2 letters of opposition, and a registered speaker, Jonathan G. I got that right, Adam?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And Mr. G is here. Hello. Is there anyone else in the room that came to speak about 37 Markland Drive? No? Okay. Okay, then. I guess, yes, Mr. Scarafile, Paul?
Yes. I'm the agent.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I guess in light of a couple of letters of opposition and Mr. G, who will be speaking about this application as well, a brief presentation would be good.
Sure,
You
not
can
a
do
problem.
that?
Yeah, not a problem. When we took on this application, the client, we were trying to see, can we do this without any variances? And looking at it, we've done everything possible other than the FSI, right? We've kept within the existing footprint. We added 209 square feet to the side yard, which is currently used as hardscape and entry into the home. So if you were to look at slide 5, slide 5 is, do you have slide 5 up there? Yeah, so you can see we've infilled in behind the garage. It used to be a U-shaped. The previous slide would show the existing condition. Right, so we've infilled that and kept within the side yard so that we only had the FSI. So we're keeping within the existing footprint of the majority of the building. We've kept our height restrictions, and we're keeping, even even the addition over the garage for the bedroom, we've set back so at the front yard it didn't look out of place. So when you look at the elevation, it's set in. So there are other buildings in the area that were sort of in keeping with new development within the neighborhood. So we think this is minor in scope. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, panel, any questions for the agent? All right, Mr. G, if you could approach the podium, please.
Good morning. I'm Jonathan G. My wife and I own 30 Clearside Place, which is the property immediately north of 37. We have 5 concerns. I'll just run through them now. Our first concern is we have a 54 centimeter diameter sugar maple situated within our deck on the east side of our house that is approximately 1.1 meters from the property line and approximately 6 meters from the northeast corner of number 37. And it would be about 5.5 meters from the proposed deck, or the brick deck structure in the new building. This large tree provides huge amenity value to the deck and economic value to the property. We would seek a commitment that our sugar maple will be physically protected from any construction activity within a minimum of 3.6 meters of it. I'd also like to note that Markland Wood was the first subdivision in Canada to save as many of the existing trees as possible in the development plan, and I believe our maple is probably one of those trees. Since 1988, we have put considerable effort into maintaining this tree, as it had been adversely affected by structures built by the previous owner of 30 Clearside and by the large concrete pad that a previous owner of 37 Markland installed. Our second concern has to do with the telephone and cable TV lines that service our house, and that those lines actually cross over the existing building at number 37. From a utility pole on the south side of that property. Not only must the service be maintained, but in doing so, it must not in any way affect the sugar maple that I just talked about in the first point. As well, establishing a utility pole on our property would not in any way be acceptable. Our third concern concerns the existing hedge, which is on the property line between number 37 and our house. It's mutually owned. And it probably originates from when the houses were built in the early 1960s. The hedge is about 10 feet tall and screens the view from and into our kitchen and bathroom windows. I have maintained the hedge since 1988 and want it to remain unaffected. Fourth, drainage is a concern. We have fortunately never had water in our basement. The foundation of our house is approximately 1.2 meters from the property line, and the 3 basement window wells are even closer than that. It is not clear whether the basement or foundation excavations are contemplated by the proposed development at number 37. Nonetheless, we would seek a commitment that the drainage between and from our house and number 37 will be maintained, and any adverse effects will be quickly addressed at the developer's expense. Our fifth point is that the application requests an increase in the permitted floor area from 0.45 to 0.57 times the lot area. This represents a 26% increase, and in our opinion is more than a minor variance. Given that number 37 is currently a multi-tenant rental, the larger floor area enables this proposal for 4 bedrooms on the second floor, each with its own bathroom, which suggests that this is actually a proposal for a building that will become a multi-unit rental, such as a Airbnb for students or travelers, given the proximity to the airport or others, which would not be compatible with the present infrastructure or character of the neighborhood. So those are our 5 concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Panel,
you.
any questions for Mr. G? No? Okay. Mr. Scarafile?
Yes.
Yes, so you've heard from Mr. G. If you could rebut his remarks, please.
Well, in terms of the rear deck, in terms of any damage to the tree, we will maintain construction techniques to avoid any of that. We've got one pillar and it's a wood deck. So that pillar, we could hydrovac and make sure that we don't interfere in the root zone. I don't believe it's in the root zone, but we can maintain that and make that a condition. As for the hydro pole, I'm not sure if that really, we're going to do anything about that, or if the builder will do anything about that. The house has been designed for a single family. It's not for a multi-unit. I have not been told and been not made aware of this being as a rental. It wasn't designed as a rental. So I can't speak to that other than when I designed this wasn't the purpose of the design for multi-unit rental. So I can't speak to anything other than what it was designed and the intent of the design.
Okay, is that it?
Sorry?
Are you finished?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a comment to Mr. G and others that might be listening. 4-plexes, 3-plexes, duplexes are permitted throughout the city of Toronto. So even though this isn't proposed to be a 4-plex, if a new owner chose to make it a 4-plex, they could. It would be allowed. That's fairly recent change, significant change to planning policy in the city of Toronto. Panel, any questions for the agent? Okay. So if we need any discussion in advance of a motion, now's the time. We're in committee. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion on the basis of the representations made by the applicant, on the basis of the comments, and I'll just ask the applicant to confirm that there is a voluntary or consent to respect the tree in question that the neighbor in opposition referenced, including the root system. Is that correct, Mr. Applicant? To safeguard and respect that tree.
Correct.
Thank you. On the basis of that voluntary condition, otherwise the application appears to meet the 4 tests in my view, I move to approve with the applicant's consent to address the neighbor's concerns about his tree.
That's not a condition though, right?
It's not a condition, it's a voluntary undertaking by the applicant. So I wanted to.
So you're just acknowledging it, but it's not a condition of the decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Popovic. Is there a seconder for that motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. All in favor? That's approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Mr. Scarafile and Mr. G. You want a break? Okay. Let's take, how long do you need? 10-minute break. We'll reconvene at 11:15. No, we'll be on item 9. We skipped forward because Dominic had a conflict with 8 and 10. Well, that happens. That's happened to me before. Yeah. Except I didn't say. Yeah, better to be safe. Wise to be safe.
Oh, no. Presentation. They're just getting into their house. I think it's under control, but who knows?
We don't have to go think about it. I'm just trying to get an idea so we can ask that question. Can you tell me what item we're here for?
62 7th Street, number 14.
Okay. I'm just trying to avoid any grass.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
13, 14, good.
So I went with her, but the thing is that incredible. She was working. It's in this little like church, so that whole week I was on the wall. But and I just followed my rules of thumb, and I was fine. But you have to know something. So just 2-3 days. You don't have to know a lot.
It's enough. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And I'm just,
2-3 days is enough, especially if you've seen everything.
Okay, we ready? proceeding with item 976 Yorkview Drive. The purpose of this application is to legalize and to maintain the covered rear deck.
Zebzoon 1140 the Queensway.
There are two variances. And we have an order to comply. We have no agency comments. We have no registered speakers. We have Agent Maren Zabzuni. Maren, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Barely. It'd help if it was a little louder. Can you
How
try
about now?
speaking
Is this
again?
better?
Sorry?
Yes. Is this better?
Yeah, marginally. Anyway.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little bit. We may not need to hear much from you anyway. I've got a note here that I thought this was pretty straightforward. Does the panel desire a presentation? No? Would you be okay if we didn't have a presentation from you, but perhaps asked you any questions that we may have? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Is that okay?
Yes. Yes.
All right, let's do it that way then. So panel, any questions for Mr. Zabzuni? No questions. Okay, then let's go into committee for a decision.
Mr. Chair, having reviewed the materials, I suggest this is a, as you say, a relatively straightforward matter. I do not see any conditions imposed by staff. I believe it meets the 4 tests. I move to approve.
Is there a seconder for Ms. Popovic?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? That's approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Zabzuni. Moving on to item 11, 19 MILLBURN Drive. The purpose is to construct an addition above the existing dwelling and a 1-story east side addition. This will be considered a new dwelling. One variance to increase the FSI from the permitted 0.45 to a proposed 0.46. I'm going to suggest strongly to my colleagues that this application does not need a presentation. Agreed, thank you. So, Mr. Perez, if you're okay to answer a question, if any of us have one, otherwise we'll proceed right to committee for a decision. Are you okay with that approach?
Yes, good morning, Chairman and committee members. I'm okay with that. Thank you very much.
Okay, good. Questions? Decision?
Sorry.
Uh-oh.
Just a quick question. Looking from at these photographs, it looks like this building has already been constructed. Is that correct?
Correct. We had building permits, and it was slightly over when they did the dormers, so that's why we're a little bit over. Yeah.
Okay.
But
All
we
right.
have building permits.
Well, since I have my microphone on and I don't think there are any questions, I'm happy to make a motion for approval. I believe this application meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act and move for approval with no conditions.
Seconder for Ms. Alderson's motion.
I'll second that.
Mr. Dalton, thank you. All in favor? That's approved unanimously. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you very
Perez.
Thank you.
Item number 12 has been withdrawn, so we're moving to item 13. And without even looking up, I know that we have a presenter in person.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. The presenter in person will be Andrew Knapp, not
Yes.
Jeff Shaw.
Okay, my note here suggests that this again is a very straightforward matter. We have a clearances from Ravina Natural Features and the TRCA. Any panelists require a presentation? Nope, okay. So if you're okay, if we have any questions,
It's fine, Mr. Chair.
proceed that way. All right, so questions, comments? None. Time for a motion to decide.
Truly minor, approved, no conditions.
Seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. All in favor? It's approved unanimously. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, before we move on to item 14, I noticed that the agent for item 14 and 16 is logged in under 2 devices. So if I can just make sure which connection is the right one. Never mind. Now they're logged in under 1 connection.
So they're good to go?
Hopefully.
Okay, so item 14 is, it's a revised application. '62 7th Street. Purpose is to construct a 2-story rear addition, a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling, and a 2nd-story rear platform. A previous Committee of Adjustment application approved a variance related to floor space index. There are 4 variances, and I know we have a registered speaker in person. Okay, and you're not the agent? Okay. So, we do have apparently an opposition letter. Yes. Is that your letter, ma'am?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, why is it crossed out? Oh, they took it off? That's good. Pardon?
Okay. I guess in light of this opposition letter, a brief presentation would be in order. Mr. Saeed?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. This is Shams Sayed, McRae Inc., 6 Ripon Street. I'm the authorized agent for this application.
Yeah, if you could make a brief presentation, maybe focus on the opposition letter for now.
Sure thing, Mr. Chair. So the application before the committee today is an application where we are proposing to have a triplex at this property. Since Bill 23 came out, we already had a previous minor variance approved for floor space index for this property, which was approved previously. And now, after that initial application submitted to the committee, the homeowners wish to actually proceed with a triplex in order to meet housing demand and the issues of high raises and affordable housing in this area. Proposing this, we are requesting the committee for 4 variances out of 1 variance. Actually, the initial variances requested were 5, out of which 1 was removed, which pertains to the side yard setback to a platform on the main floor and the 2nd story. One thing over here is that since we removed and we shortened the size of the platforms on the main floor and the second story platforms in the rear yard, the area of the platform has reduced on the 2nd stories to about 6 meters. So I would kindly ask if it's possible for the committee to make an amendment to that variance. Instead of 7.8 to 6 square meters is the platform area for the 2nd story platform. Apart from this,
Sorry, what area of platform are you requesting?
6 square meters.
6.0 instead of 7.8. Correct?
That's right, sir. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Now, I did receive the objection letters, which was dated the 3rd and today, so 2 days. And I understand where the neighbors on 64 2nd Street, 7th Street, and the one opposite is coming from. I'd like to address those concerns first. Now, one of those concerns mentioned the insufficient setback. Now, the proposal to this application is to have a side yard setback of 0.3 meters, abutting 64 7th Street, and 0.76 meters abutting the other lot, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a 1.2 meter setback. Considering this, the thing that we are doing here is having a building length, which is 17.2 meters, which is only 0.2 meters more than what the zoning bylaw already allows. Now, in terms of the side yard setback, we are maintaining the existing setbacks of the already constructed house, which has been there for more than at least 50 years now. And the first concern that one of the neighbors had was drainage. Now, in terms of drainage, we are going through the building process, and anything related to drainage would be obviously reviewed by city and approved. Now, with the design of the property being a flat roof, we have the opportunity to have all the downspouts into the rear and front yard, so it mitigates any drainage into the side yards. This would be beneficial, as a flat roof design would enable us to have a slope in such a way, a 2% slope in such a way, that we mitigate all water flow to the front of the property and the rear of the property, so there is hardly any water coming in the side of the property apart from directly incident rainwater. Now, in terms of the height variance, the only difference in height we're requesting is 0.72 meters, whereas 7 meters is allowed. So it's only less than a meter, which is nearly 2.5 feet difference that we are requesting. The request for this is to have sufficient heights on all 3 floors, which is the basement, ground, and main floor, considering this as to be a triplex. Now, also, since it's a flat roof design, we also need to insulate properly, so that is why we're requesting for this variance. I feel that this is not too major in nature. It's only 2.5 feet more than what the zoning bylaw allows. And the building length, so the neighbors were also concerned about light issues. Irrespectively, the building length that is allowed is 17 meters. We are only requesting a 0.2 meter difference, which is less than a foot in building length. I understand that the setbacks on the sides are maintained the same and they do not pertain to the existing bylaw, which requires 1.2 meters. But our understanding is that we are still maintaining what the existing setbacks are, and this would not negatively impact, and this proposal is sympathetic to the official plan, and it does not negatively impact the neighbors to an extent which they believe it is being impacted in. Now, if there are any further questions that the committee may have, I would be glad to answer. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions for Mr. Said? Okay, we do have a person in attendance who wishes to speak to this. Ma'am, if you could just give us your name and address.
My name is Bianca Zorzi. I'm at 64 7th Street.
You're the immediate neighbor to the north. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, if you could speak to us, please.
So yeah, the main concerns were absolutely the setback, that yes, our houses are, it's a very small setback between the two houses. That is our access point to get to our backyard. So that's where we bring our recycling and garbage bins. That's where our water bib is, like with our hose between the houses. The houses are less than 28 inches between each other. 2 100-year-old houses with original foundations. It's very concerning to me. Like you can just fit a bicycle, like handlebars between the two houses.
So the total distance between the buildings is 28
28
inches?
at the widest, 24 at the shortest.
Wow.
It's very, very tight. That's how we get to the backyard. That's where the gate is to get to the back, where we bring our lawnmower, all that kind of stuff. That's where the kids come when they come to play in the backyard. 0.3 meters is just not sufficient. We've measured it. We had an architect come to our home to just explain the plans to us, because we're new to this. This is our first house. We bought it 2 years ago. And I'm not opposed at all to it being renovated, to be honest. It's kind of in disrepair now. It needs to be improved. And I don't even mind the multi-unit thing. It's just at the back, it's going to be taking up more than half of the backyard depth. There are no houses on our side of the street where there is an extension that deep. I understand that that's within the limits, but with that, in addition to this large deck at the back, just basically looking into our backyard, we would lose a lot of our privacy. We also have a perennial garden. We have a tree on that south side that for sure the roots would be severed. It would be gone. I'm not even sure how the construction would work at that 11 inches off of our fence. Like, would the fence stay? Would the scaffolding have to go onto our property to even be built? Over extended periods, it's gonna a stucco exterior. I'm not sure. They would just be in our backyard, I guess. Our property width is only 25 feet as it is. So just that encroaching height of that 26 feet up, going in that far into the back of the backyard, it'll kind of make a narrow kind of courtyard feel when we have our whole living space in the back there. So honestly, he's saying it's not a big difference in variance, but every inch at this point matters. In addition to being closer to our property line, that'll also not allow as much light in from like the angle. Having 3.9 feet off of the property line will just add a little bit more, at least a little bit of spacing. And then in terms of just maintaining their property, if they have to access that huge new wall side of the house for any sort of repairs or anything, how do they access that without coming into our backyard with only 11 inches? Because right now our houses are at the same level at the back. So that narrow passageway between the two houses that was grandfathered in from, the last 100 years or so.
The survey here shows a framed deck at the west end of your house. Is that still there? I don't know.
That's the stairs just going to the backyard.
Yes. So 1, 2, 4 steps up to a framed deck.
Yeah.
And that extends beyond the existing house at 62, correct?
A little bit beyond, but it's very much in from the property line. The architect was just outlining a bunch of issues that they noticed on the plans. The drainage, I know he's talking about the drainage not being an issue, but again, because our houses are so close together at that 2 feet, the overhangs with our rain gutters are only 5 inches apart from each other. They are so close. When you're walking you're walking underneath a cover, basically. So having this two-story rise with another overhang, anything that's coming off of that with these big downpours we're having will just kind of flood onto our roof to then go in between the two houses. The other issue, of course, the loss of light and view, which I concede it is what it is. If it stays within the variances, that's fine. But again, having it closer to our backyard will just really encroach. And then all the other issues I just stated. The height, what is that? So the back goes too far. So that's the setback. That's our main concern, 100%. The depth.
Ma'am, if you can wrap up, you're running over time.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
You have run over time.
Sorry, I lost a privacy. The fire-rated window, and then the window looks as if it's going to be positioned directly across from our existing window from our living room. And then that there's no specifications as to how they are fire rating that window with that close proximity to our house. That's another concern. There's also lots of discrepancies between what's been proposed on here and the actual plans.
I'm going to have to ask you to end now. Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Zorzi? Okay, Mr. Said, if you can come up and speak to Ms. Zorzi's concerns, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So one of the concerns about drainage, I've already mentioned that in my initial dialogue, and I still strongly feel, I understand that this story addition is going to be higher than what her house is. But again, it's a flat roof design with proper eaves and gutters running into the front and backyard. This would not negatively impact her side yard. Furthermore, talking about other aspects such as the fire-rated windows, this is something not governed by zoning. It's not a planning application thing. It's more of a Ontario Building Code regulation. So those fire-rated windows would be fire-rated as per the OBC clauses, and that I understand. Like, if she has more questions, she can either reach out to our firm, McQuays Inc., or the property owner, and we can explain to her how this is different from the Committee of Adjustments application and the variances that we're requesting. In terms of the light issues and the projection, yes, there's a projection which would be a little more further than what her existing deck is. And again, the length of the building is only 0.2 meters more than what the zoning allows, irrespectively. Even if you wouldn't have come to the committee for that, we would still be able to construct the 17-meter length building by maintaining the 1.2 meter setback. The request is that so that all 3 units have adequate space and are able to be rented out and to create affordable housing. I would also ask the committee members if they have any suggestions to this application. I would be gladly consider it if you do have any opinions of your own, and any other questions I'd be glad to answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Panel, any questions for Mr. Said? Comments? No? Okay, then let's go into committee for a decision then.
Mr. Chair, I have a comment for my consideration of this matter. I'm in a quandary about splitting off because, in my view, variants 1 and 4 are problematic, less so with 2 and 3. So, to the extent, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, if there can be a severance of, not severance, separating out 1 and 4 from the other 2 variances. We cannot.
I would just say you are aware that this is really a top-up, and that with respect to variance 1, that 0.3 meter north side yard setback is existing. You're aware of that.
But they are expanding it to the rear.
Yeah, I know that. But they're extending it 0.2 meters beyond what the bylaw allows. Yep.
I do appreciate that. It's a quandary for me.
So you're thinking you're okay with variances 2 and 3, but not 1 and 4. Any other comments on that comment, or?
It's clear that 4 is 6 square meters, right?
Yeah.
It's 6 square meters.
It's been reduced from 7.8 to 6.0.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, I heard that, but it's an amendment, right?
Yeah.
Yes, so they've asked for that revision, so whatever decision you're making today, number 4 will be 6 square meters.
And they can build 4 with as of right.
Thank you.
Okay. So if there are no other comments, can we have a motion?
Yep, I'd like to move a motion to approve as amended. I believe the application meets the 4 tests and is not subject to any conditions.
Okay. Is there a seconder for Mr. Dalton's motion?
Chair, I would like to second it, and I understand the concern of the neighbor, but indeed, in terms of what we're looking at, an extension of an existing condition is small. And that's why they're here. That's why it's minor variance, and I understand and I appreciate the fact that the neighbor has come out and spoken to us about it. I will second that motion, Chair.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, Mr. Gully, can you just put your hand up? Oh, thank you. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Okay, item 15 was deferred. We are moving to the last item on this morning's agenda, which is 72 7th Street. Purpose is to legalize and to maintain the existing building that is currently under construction by constructing a 2-story rear addition, a 1-story rear addition, and to create a secondary suite. We have an order to comply. We have a Metrolinx advisory. We have no other agency comments. And I don't believe we have any registered speakers beyond the agent. Mr. Said again. Is that correct, Adam?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So, committee, would we be okay with not having a presentation, or would you anybody desire one? Okay, Mr. Said?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we as a panel do not require a presentation from you, but would you be satisfied if we just left it that you answer any questions if we have any?
That would be perfect, sir.
That'd be perfect. Good. Okay, so questions, comments from the panel? Ms. Popovic.
I have a question, Mr. Agent. The photos provided with this application, the site photos, show, without comment about the condition of it, there appears to be several areas of deterioration or at least weathering. Can you address why that is, perhaps, and also when the finished work, if we were to approve it, would be cleaned up? I'm thinking from the perspective of visually from the neighbors.
Sure thing. So being the applicant for this application, the property owners reached out to us post they received a notice for compliance, and we have taken this up and we're expediting the whole permit process so that they have permits to start construction soon enough. So once hopefully this application is approved by committee, I'll go through the appeal period timeline and then go back to zoning. So I'm expecting that within 3 months, hopefully we should have the building permits, after which they can restart the work, because due to the order to comply, they cannot do any works on site. So hopefully any clearance works that are required to get removed from property would be done after this hearing, hopefully within a month's time. And the deteriorated works, obviously we need a building permit to proceed with any demolition or any restoration to the property. So the application before the committee is for the variances so that we have a building permit after this is approved, hopefully, and then go on to site and start the construction. But any debris that you see around the property, those would be cleared up within a month's time. And as soon as we have the building permit, we'll start the construction at the earliest.
Thank you.
That answers your question.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions? We ready for a motion?
Okay. I'd like to move a motion to approve. I believe the application meets the 4 tests and there are no conditions.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for Mr. Dalton's motion?
I will second that motion, but I just want to make sure that the applicant is aware that there is a Metrolinx advisory.
Yes, we are aware of it.
Okay, thank you. I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Okay, that motion to approve was approved unanimously.
Thank you very much.
So the morning session is now over. So we'll reconvene for the afternoon session, I guess, at 1 p.m. Red Cardinal? Working lunch? Red Cardinal? Dominic? Dominic, are you interested in joining us over at the Red Cardinal restaurant?
I'm going to sign some papers.
Sign some papers? You can sign them in the restaurant.
1201.
You can sign them in the restaurant. They have a private booth over there.
Thank you for the invite.